Greetings, friends, and welcome to Beast Foundry. My name is Christian, and as usual, I will be your guide today. Now today, I am very excited to bring you the island of Cordok. Now, our world for Beast Foundry is Chondara, and there are several continents, and the main continent is called Calidor. Cordok is a smallish island, as you can see from the map here. It's actually roughly, 400 miles across at various areas. So it's a small island off the southern coast of the main continent, and had to start somewhere. So let's start here. And this is a custom done map. So as we move on to the main continent, I'm going to be working on that map and getting that out to you guys. But for now, this is where our adventure begins. Now, some important things to know about the world of Chondara was, most importantly, about 3,000 years ago, demons invaded the world. They were looking for some kind of weapon. The people of Chondara had no idea what it was, but the demons were set that there was an artifact that had the capability to kill a god. This became known as the Demon Wars. It lasted for about 100 years, and it almost wiped out all of civilization on the world. It was through a coalition of humans, elves, dwarves that after they had almost been defeated, they were bought a little bit of time by a ancestry called the Batar. They performed a ritual with the help of some of the old gods and were able to imbue the creatures of the world with fantastic powers temporarily. These powers allowed them to hunt demons and kill them. And what that did was it allowed humanity and civilization time to basically make a counterattack against the demons while they were busy dealing with this. Now, this is an incredible simplification for all of that, but that's kind of a very pivotal part of the history of the world, basically because the island of Cordok was so very affected by that. It's somewhat cut off from the world, and its main reason it actually still exists is the export of lumber. There is a lumber there that is harvested in Axbiter Forest, so we'll get into that in just a minute, but it is shipped all over the world, and it is still insanely valuable. So that's kind of how the island stays, financially solvent, as it were. There's, a couple of cities, a lot of towns, but there's a lot of ruins here, and a great deal of mystery. This island is a bit cut off from the mainland to some degree. People still very much hold to the old gods and the old ways, so there's a good deal of mysticism around here. So it was a really fun place, and because it was so self-contained, I thought an excellent place to introduce all of you to Chondara. So let's get started with a little bit of a brief explanation of these places. So as we see on the northwest corner, there is Starlight Tower. This is a magical academy. It was once a premier academy for the entire continent of Calidor, but after the Demon Wars, it definitely lost quite a bit of its prestige. It still is very functional, and people still come from all over the world to learn here, but it is no longer the premier academy. A lot of fun to be had there. Think of it as sort of a almost Hogwarts style of children are sent here to learn magic from all over the world and then return to wherever they came from. Next, as we start going to the east, we have the village of Ravensclaw. It's a small, mostly human village. The city of Timberhaunt is probably the most important location on the island. It is where all of the major nobility for the island reside. There are 8 noble houses, and they kind of influence the entire island. They have their hands into everything from these various villages and other parts. And they're basically kind of the de facto rulers of the city, even though it still has its own government in that. But not a lot happens without the say of the nobles. We get into Axbiter Forest, where, as I said, the lumber operations that basically these that keeps the entire island going and provides much of the nobility with their wealth. All of this lumber is sent to Timberhaunt and then shipped all over the world. We continue eastward. We hit the town of Birchwood, another small human settlement. We hit Ghost Hammer Peaks. There are several old fortresses that have basically were lost to time and destroyed during the Demon Wars. A lot of people don't go up there anymore because there are a great many things that will kill you, but a lot of treasure to be found up there if you're brave enough. Hammerstone is kind of a quasi-dwarven settlement, some gnomes and humans, halflings, and they're at the base of Ghost Hammer Peaks. They do some mining operations in there, but mostly stay out of the upper reaches. They mostly focus on going downward. We continue around. We have the town, a sort of city town of Fallen Oak. It's kind of a slightly swampy area. A lot of people do not use this port because of the Island of Dead Men that we see off the East Coast. There is a great deal of undead there. They patrol the area in ships, so some fishing happens out of there, but there is not a lot of trade or commerce over there, and as such, the town kind of suffers a bit as far as any kind of trade hub for the island. Just to the west a little, you see the towns of Tradewind and Stump. Both, again, pretty minor towns. Tradewind has some interesting history to it, and Stump has a small settlement of dwarves that come from Black Anvil Keep, which we'll get to in a minute. But continuing around the Horn from Fallen Oak, we hit the Eastwood, home to an orc tribe there that pay homage to some ancient creature, and they are able to shapeshift into boars, and they seem to follow these large six-legged boar-like creatures and worship them as deities and use them as war engines and such. It's a pretty frightening place, and it can be not a lot of people go there anymore. Continuing south, we hit the River Mist Hills, an area of ogres and hill giants. We hit Devil's Platter. It was a fortress that had been laid waste by the Demon Wars, yet afterwards, devils had taken up. They came in to see what their demonic adversaries were doing and have since taken up roost in some of the old catacombs and ruins here. So the area still has the name Devil's Platter. No one's seen any of the devils for quite some time, but it is quite possible you might encounter some. As we continue this vast expanse, there's very little that lives there as far as like sentient creatures, mostly monsters. And we continue around till we hit the Echo Mountains, a vast mountain range that, if you head north, hits Black Anvil Keep. This is actually the biggest city on the island. Some of it is above ground, most of it is below, and it is a dwarven stronghold. And there are tunnels that lead into the Black. That is the area of the underground region from Chondara. They've been around a long time, and as a lot of dwarves typically do, they don't get horribly involved in the affairs of the surface world that much. So while they're on friendly terms with everyone on the island, they don't get horribly involved. Continuing in our circle around the island, we hit Little Roothold, a very interesting little town of druids and hodgepodge of various things that call this place home. It's a very entertaining place to visit. And we hit Blackfire Pines, a interesting forest, has a little bit of a haunted feel to it. There's definitely some interesting things there. The elven city of Silverlight. This is a pretty old elven city, but it is mostly built in the treetops. There's not a lot of, grand stonework or anything like that. As we continue around, the largest and most, thing that attracts the most amount of adventurers and people are the ruins of Shadowfire. The Fortress of Shadowfire was laid low by the demons 3,000 years ago, but there is still a vast amount of power contained within there. In fact, when the demons invaded, they believed that is where the relic was that had the ability to kill gods, but after they basically ransacked the island, they retreated back to the mainland and continued their war elsewhere. So the places, the ruins of Shadowfire are still very much haunted to this day. There's a cult of undead that control the area. So if you're brave enough to go there, there is a lot of treasure to be found. Now, I have on my Patreon, totally free, there is the player's guide. So if you join us for any of our West Marches games, they take place here on this island. You can read all about this through the Patreon link. It is going to be in the text for this video. So I encourage all of you that are interested in this, come to the Roll for Intent Discord. Going to be a link for that too. You know what? I wanted to start getting this stuff out to you so that you are aware that it's there. And, even if you have no interest in my world or anything, so your DMs out there, sometimes it's fun to just have something new. So I've added this as another reason I chose to kind of do an island. So maybe it can be imported into your game and give your DM a little bit of a break in coming up with a bunch of stuff. There's a lot of things here for players to do and entertain themselves with. So I hope you enjoy what we're doing. I hope you like this video. If you do, please like and subscribe. And as always, if you would be so kind to support us so that I can continue doing this, the more support I get, the more time I am able to devote to this. This is all my after work weekend project, and I would love for this to be my full-time thing so that I can just get more of this stuff out to you guys. That's about all I have for you guys this week. As always, game well, my friends.